Hi, my name is Ben Graham. Chicago is kind of my chosen second home. It's great to be back, but I'm currently at Humboldt State University, where I've been an assistant professor for the past 3 years, way up in Northern California in the ancient Redwoods. When you stand in an ancient redwood grove, I want to first start this busy Ignite session by complete silence, just for a second. That's what you hear when you sit in an ancient redwood grove. It's awe-inspiring. It makes you want to, you just immediately feel connected. It almost requires no explanation. Other things in community psych that bring us our awe are these histories of social justice. Rosa Parks, not a tired old lady, but a seasoned tactical activist sitting on a bus. Dr. Anonymous' speech in 1972 and the removal of homosexuality from the DSM. All kinds of sorts of national histories, but anywhere you go. Chicago's a fine example, but anywhere you go, there's histories. Haymarket riots, recent parent organizing to extend school research within CPS. Even very fascinating histories like the collaboration of the Black Panthers with the white Southern leftist young patriots. So if you dissect these stories, you start to find fascinating histories, fascinating strategies of social justice. So when you combine awe with this history and an analysis of strategy, it can create inspiration for us as educators and for students as well. So service-based learning is a great way to do that. It's something I'm a big believer in. It has, academic success for students, helps in building teamwork, which translates to job skills, it leads to college retention, it helps to serve the community, hundreds of hours in the community. Leads to leadership and volunteerism and later on in life, thinking outside the box, but more inspirationally, just like the next generation. We're responsible for teaching the next generation. So how do we do that? I'm going to explain a method today on how you do that. The institutional context is Humboldt State University, the northernmost campus of the 23 CSU campuses. We're rural and isolated. You can see the redwoods are wrapped around us. We are everywhere. The students are wonderful, inspiring from throughout the state, including a lot from Southern California. So it's kind of an interesting but weird place to be. Service learning grounds them in there. So one way to learn about your place is to learn about the history of social justice movements. I chose the Redwood Wars, this fascinating period in the 80s and 90s to save the last remaining privately held ancient redwood groves. Included such characters as Judy Berry, Daryl Cherney, who came and guest lectured at one point, it's awesome, and Julia Butterfly Hill, who lived in a tree without coming down for 738 days. It's a fascinating story of activism. In a contemporary setting, because that's the whole point, our students were placed in work teams of about 8 students each in 6 different organizations, including a racial justice coalition, a food pantry, a community garden, a group working to build a tiny house community in Eureka. And then I used the Cluse 2012 textbook framework for community organizing, and students started to see, okay, well, how do these organizing tactics manifest at my site? But we first did that by telling the Redwood Wars story and all the different facets on policy levels and theater levels, all kinds of connections. And they started to make those connections, such as the organizing of the Redwood Summer in 1990, and a recent death of an African-American young man that's really shaken our community in the last 2 years. Judy Bear's coalition work and working with the community gardens to outreach to the local hospital. That was something that the students initiated. And through all this, it seemed to really connect. So I proposed this model. It's recently been published in the Global Journal of Community Psychology Practice, and you're welcome to take a copy or get a reference for it. And I just want to keep this going because I think I'm onto something, and my students have told me that. Here's some quotes from them. The student who saw her fellow naysaying student walking across the quad making fun of a rally. It's like, no, these rallies have a place. They're in a larger context of strategy for social change. So the linkages are happening. The community partners really liked us being there. We got a lot of great feedback. One thing we learned is they had no idea we had learned about the Redwood Wars, and we were building tactics to help their agency's mission. So that's something I'm going to build into the next time around, but overall it was overwhelmingly positive. On a personal level, I'm from Chicago. I miss it so much, some days when I'm back. But to be up there, I wanted to learn my own community. So this was also a process of me learning as a student of my own community and its own history, and renewed my sense of curiosity, and seeing my students out there in the field just like was humbling. It was humbling, and it's something that you really can get behind. Dr. Graham probably rambled on too long. I could probably make it a little bit shorter, limitation. I'd probably do 3 weeks instead of 7 weeks. And then also make that connection more known. When an ancient redwood tree is cut down, something really interesting happens chemically. Sproutlings grow around it, and now years later you have 200 feet, a perfect spiral of young trees circling around the former base. When I think about the next generation of service learners, I think it's really important to continue to innovate and find ways to combine the awe of what we care about most, the history of people who've gone before us, and the strategies we have for making that work. And I think that's really the essence.